So what a massive debate that obviously is the issue around alcohol, what the input is in as far as I understand it from government's perspective, they are trying to limit the number of people who are admitted in the emergency rooms in hospitals and ease the load therein. But at the same time, you've got the alcohol industry which says this has become a blunt instrument. Government doesn't attend to all the other issues that need to be attended to when we come to the response against COVID-19 and just goes for this blunt instrument which is killing their industry. So that's one to watch in the evening. Let's hear where President Cyril Ramaphosa takes this aspect of it. It's not the only aspect, but it's one of many aspects. In fact, one of the main aspects has to do with the economy. Economists are warning the real impact of the civil unrest will only be felt in years to come. That is the civil unrest and the looting and violence that you saw recently that took place in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng. Let's bring into this conversation then Professor Bonke Dumisa for that conversation. So thank you for your time this afternoon. Why do you say that the real impact of the looting and violence and the disruption that we saw recently will only be felt in the years to come?
Thank you, Thulasizwe, and your listeners. The impact is going to be felt much later because, remember, these 2 weeks of mayhem, looting and anarchy resulted in over 54 billion rands being lost to the province. And restarting that whole engine of the economy on the N3 and all the supply chains which were disrupted is going to take some time. And already the international credit rating agencies, both Fitch and Moody's, have actually indicated that there may be a negative impact on our GDP growth rate for this year, but not as much as we expected. And the rand did weaken, but it is now trying to find its way back to where it was before this whole thing. So that is where the delay thing is. But I want to assure the South Africans then that at last now the South African government seems to be on top of the whole thing, and we have not heard of any incidents of looting and anarchy throughout the province over the past few days.
So when you cast your eye ahead, Prof, what does the real impact look like? Because, you know, we got the tally from the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal yesterday, Sihle Zikalala, just giving us a sense of the destruction that was wrought on and the number of jobs that he anticipates. But in the medium term, what does it look like?
I'm saying the figures that he quoted, yes, are quite accurate, but you must remember the 156,000 jobs that are at stake is not a final figure. It was an estimate. So as it is now, as it has happened, that most businesses in the suburbs have opened already and are running at full steam. And the ones which are affected are in the commercial areas and in the business office areas. We do not think that that is going to take much longer. So yes, there will be an impact on the GDP growth rate. However, the economy in KwaZulu-Natal is back in full steam, and we must not really panic. There was minimal damage to the economy over the past 2 weeks.
So what about the other damage, Prof, that one can't really quantify at this point? The damage in as far as confidence is concerned, the conversations that people who are potential investors, being domestic or international investors, must be having with themselves in the wake of some of the destruction we saw, that we surely can't quantify, but we surely will feel.
That one we will feel. In fact, it is no secret that one of the top international multinational corporations, Toyota, did write to the eThekwini mayor to say, can he clarify his stance on this? But fortunately, they've said they are going to continue their investments. But there are many other global investors and even local investors who approached the organized business to say, but can we trust this province? Because the problem here, Thulasizwe and the listeners, is that the politicians were there when these things started, and the question is, why didn't they prevail from the onset? They only came up and said, we are saying no to looting, after everyone all over the country had said their thing. So let's hope we're not going to have those things in the future. And let us hope that the people who said they may reconsider, because they did not say we're leaving, they said they may reconsider their options of whether to remain in this province or not. Let us hope they are not going to move. But if ever people know that the people are supposed to be in charge do not really become accountable when these things happen, then the investors want to go to places where there is political certainty and economic certainty.
So while you talk about certainty, Prof, and as a parting shot from me to you, what would then help us to bend that curve such that we don't lose out on investment and particularly restore confidence? We've been talking about this whole issue of structural reform and getting the country's finances in shape, etc., as a key building block towards stabilizing the economy. Now we are hit with this instability in the form of violence and looting and a breakdown, albeit temporarily, in the rule of law in the two provinces. Take all of that into the mix, add the challenges with COVID-19. Which way should we be responding? What should President Ramaphosa, for example, be signaling in as far as the economy is concerned, starting tonight, but also in the days and weeks ahead to come?
To start with, President Cyril Ramaphosa has got to reconsider that whole issue about alcohol ban. And I'm not singling it out for nothing. It is because so many jobs have been lost through that thing, especially here in KwaZulu-Natal, where the Durban ICC and many other places are closed because of that. Thousands of jobs have been lost. And there is no scientific proof to link the alcohol ban with the increase in COVID infections. So it can deal with that thing and deal with many other restrictions which are not really justified under these circumstances, because the economy is crawling and crying, and let us not make knee-jerk reactions just because we want to please some people who want quick fixes. Let us concentrate on that one, because the economy is really struggling. We are saying it's going to grow at about 4.2% this year after this whole thing in KwaZulu-Natal. But further restrictions may affect it even further. But people must know the government will not have money to assist many businesses to go back to be on their feet after this thing. So let us look for other ways to help those businesses which have been affected by this whole mayhem.
All right, thank you for that. Professor Bonke Dumisa, an independent economist, weighing in on what to expect later on when we get to that fellow South Africans moment. President Cyril Ramaphosa expected to address the nation a bit later on, but also Prof. Dumisa putting into perspective the damage that we saw from the violence and looting that took place. I'm almost tempted even to not call it civil unrest. I can see that we're calling it civil unrest. I don't know. Perhaps it is. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I think it was just violence and wanton looting, and we shouldn't try and clothe it in the garb of protest, because it certainly wasn't protest at all. It didn't fit the bill for protest in a democratic society at all, not by any stretch of the imagination.